There was a group in college that was a gaming group, and they were exactly like that. It was so not about the role play or the immersion of the story. It was all about the stats and the numbers and the facts, and anything you wanted to do, somebody had, well, that's stupid. Why are you doing that? Well, they're weak to silver, so you should know that. Why should you know that? Does your character have a knowledge of that? Because that's what we're trying to talk about. We're trying to talk about what your character knows, not what you as a person know. I have a ton of D&D books. I have a ton of role-playing books. I've read most of them, but I have to actively, when I'm playing a character, tell myself, this is what I would do, but this is what my character might do.
Yeah. Well, it's where that playoff of, taking a turn or two to try and figure out what the thing is beneficial, right? So even if I was a paladin and this thing kind of looks like it might be something from otherworld or demonic in some sense, but if I have no clue, that's what I'm going to use, divine sense. Otherwise, if I already knew that information, why does it matter? Like you'd never use that ability ever because it's a fiend or a demon. Like it's little things like that takes away from the game if you play it with the knowledge you have as a player and not the knowledge that your character should have.
Yeah, absolutely. Because really, the thing about metagaming is that it totally suspends the immersion as far as I'm concerned. We've talked about this a lot. We've talked about building, when you build your world, you're building a society, you're building histories and cultures and things like that. And while you don't have to have all the details, you try to make things as realistic feeling as possible, even in the fantasy setting. And what I mean by that is not so much that it's like you have to remain in the laws of science or physics, because obviously we're talking about fantasy games or we're talking about, fiction, creative fiction. But I feel that you also, like, the more connection to realistic things you have, like, the easier it is for players to, I guess, buy it, like to buy into it. And I think when you get somebody that sits at the table that just starts, spamming the table or talking during other people's turns or telling other players what to do based off of things that they know from the books or from the stat blocks of a creature, like that really just kind of creates a toxic atmosphere for the game session as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, and it also kind of gets rid of any sort of experimentation that you might want to do, like as a character and as a player, in fighting against these creatures. For all you know, the DM could have changed some aspect about this creature to make it more or less difficult to fight against based on what your party makeup is. And so you might be looking at a creature and go, "Oh, this thing, I know this thing. I have the stat block memorized. This thing is weak to cold damage." And so you cast your cold damage on it, and it doesn't do as much as you thought. But then somebody else does lightning damage, and that hurts it a whole lot. And it's like, why? Wait, this completely throws off everything that I know. And there could just be something like that. It could just be a hook it could just be a twist that the DM threw onto this creature because they know, like, especially if the DM knows that you're a player that likes to do that kind of thing, they might just try to throw twists at you to make sure that you're not really aware of what it is that you're going up against and make you really think about, what you should be doing.
Right.
And experimenting.
I've been there actually as a DM in the past, especially when you're younger and you first get into the game. And back then there wasn't a lot of guidance, like 1,000,001 YouTube channels that are trying to assist you. And
yeah, we didn't have any of that.
Yeah, tell you how to do all that stuff. The fun part was people did memorize the stats and what the creatures and this and that, the other thing, were weak to. So I literally changed it all the time. And once in a while that led to a disagreement, if you will. But, you kind of have to. And
yeah,
I've seen it to the point where, if you're not doing that with everything at that point, the players would get very agitated and, but we were very young at the time and we didn't know any better. Now, you watch anything and they're like, well, keep your eyes out for this and that. And they can try and give you all the guidance, and it's definitely true. But I think it needs to be included in a session 0 or beyond that, where you just say, hey, just so everybody knows, like, these creatures aren't necessarily going to have the same weaknesses.